The call came on a Wednesday morning. I was in my office reviewing acquisition proposals for 2 retail properties downtown when my father's name appeared on my phone. Warren Calloway rarely called during business hours. In his mind, I didn't have business hours. I just sat around waiting for rent checks. Morgan, about Sunday dinner. What about it? I think it would be better if you didn't come this week. We're celebrating Paige's bakery. She just hit her 1-year anniversary and she's finally turning a profit. Okay, and why can't I be there? It's just, you know how you two are together. There's always tension. And this is Paige's moment. She actually built something from scratch. I don't want her feeling like she has to compete. Compete with what? With you and your whatever it is you do. Collecting rent, managing properties. It's not the same as creating a real business. Paige took a risk, followed her dream, made something out of nothing. I don't want you diminishing that. I stared at the spreadsheet on my computer, the one showing my portfolio, 43 commercial properties across 3 states, valued at roughly $68 million. The empire I'd built over 12 years, starting with a single duplex I'd bought at a foreclosure auction when I was 24. You just collect rent. That's how my father had always described what I did. Never mind that I'd bought, renovated, and managed those properties myself. Never mind that I employed 15 people and had created more jobs than Paige's bakery ever would. Never mind that I'd offered to help Paige with her business plan 3 years ago and been told that I didn't understand entrepreneurship. Fine, I said. Enjoy your celebration. Don't be like that, Morgan. I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. I said fine. I'll skip dinner. Give Paige my congratulations. I hung up before he could respond. Sophia appeared in my doorway 10 minutes later, a stack of folders in her arms. Lease renewals for the Riverside block. 3 of them are straightforward, but we've got a problem with Unit 4B. What kind of problem? 3 months behind on rent. The tenant's been dodging our calls. I was about to start the eviction process, but I wanted to check with you first because she hesitated. The business name rang a bell. Paige's Pastries. Is that my sister's bakery? Sophia's face went carefully neutral. She'd worked for me for 6 years. She knew the family dynamics, had watched me get excluded from holiday gatherings and dismissed as just a landlord, while my parents fawned over Paige's cupcakes. Do you want me to handle it? No. I took the folder from her hands. I'll deal with this personally. The file was damning. 3 months of missed rent, totaling $14,400. 2 months of partial payments before that. A pattern of late fees and bounce checks going back almost a year. And underlying all of it, a lease that had been signed not with me, but with my property management company. Paige had no idea who her landlord was. She'd rented from Calloway Properties LLC, dealt with Sophia and the maintenance team, and never once connected the dots to her sister, which meant she'd been telling our parents about her successful bakery while secretly drowning in debt she couldn't pay. I thought about what my father had said. She actually built something, turning a profit, finally successful. According to these numbers, Paige wasn't successful at all. She was 3 months from bankruptcy, bleeding money faster than she could bake croissants, lying to everyone about how well things were going. And somehow that made her more worthy of celebration than me. I picked up the phone and dialed my sister's number. She answered on the 3rd ring, sounding harried. Hello? Paige. It's Morgan. A pause. The kind that told me she wasn't happy to hear from me. Morgan. Hey, what's up? I need to talk to you about your bakery. Specifically about the building you're renting. Another pause. Longer this time. What about it? You're 3 months behind on rent. The lease renewal is due next week, and you owe $14,000 in back payments. How do you know about my rent situation? Because I own the building, Paige. Calloway Properties LLC. That's me. The silence on the other end was deafening. You're my landlord? I have been for the past year. You signed the lease with my property manager. I didn't. I had no idea. Her voice had changed. The confidence was gone, replaced by something smaller. Morgan, listen, I can explain. I'm not looking for an explanation. I'm looking for $14,000. I don't have it. Not right now. Business has been slower than I expected, and there were equipment repairs and the ingredient costs keep going up. Then we have a problem. Because without that payment, I can't renew your lease. And without a lease renewal, you'll need to vacate by the end of the month. You can't be serious. This is my business. My dream. You can't just shut me down over a few late payments. A few late payments? Paige, you haven't paid full rent in 5 months. That's not a temporary setback. That's a pattern. I'm good for it. I just need more time. The holiday season is coming up, and I'll have tons of orders. That's what you said last quarter, and the quarter before that. According to my records, you've been promising to catch up for almost a year. So what, you're going to evict your own sister? Is that what this is about? You're jealous because Mom and Dad are proud of me for once, so you're going to destroy everything I built? I leaned back in my chair, looking at the folder on my desk. The months of excuses, the bounced checks, the endless cycle of just a little more time. This isn't about jealousy, Paige. This is about business. You signed a contract. You agreed to pay rent. You haven't held up your end. And now there are consequences. But we're family. Family doesn't mean you get to live rent-free in my building while telling everyone how successful you are. Family doesn't mean I subsidize your dream while you and Dad treat me like I don't matter. That's not fair. I never said, Dad called me this morning, told me not to come to dinner because you actually built something, and I just collect rent. Meanwhile, you can't even pay the rent you owe me. Silence again. I could hear her breathing, trying to figure out what to say. I didn't know it was your building. Would it have mattered if you did? Would you have paid on time? Or would you have expected me to let it slide because we're sisters? She didn't answer. That was answer enough. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You have until Friday to bring your account current. All $14,000, plus the late fees. If you can't do that, I'll offer you a payment plan. But it will be a real plan, with automatic withdrawals and penalties for missed payments. If you don't want the payment plan, you can find a new location for your bakery. That's 2 days. I can't come up with $14,000 in 2 days. Then take the payment plan. Or don't. But those are your options. Morgan, please. Can we at least talk about this in person? Maybe over dinner. I thought I wasn't welcome at dinner. I thought my presence would diminish your achievement. The words hung in the air, sharp and bitter. I didn't say that. That was Dad. And you didn't correct him, did you? You never do. You let them treat me like the family disappointment while you play the golden child, and you never once stand up and say, actually, Morgan's pretty successful too. I didn't know. You didn't want to know. It was easier to believe I was just a landlord, just collecting rent, just coasting while you worked hard. Well, here's the truth, Paige. I own 43 buildings. My company is worth $68 million. I built all of that from nothing while you were racking up debt on a bakery you can't afford. $68 million? Give or take. But that doesn't matter to Mom and Dad, because I didn't follow my dream. I just made smart investments and lived within my means. Boring stuff. Nothing worth celebrating. Paige was quiet for a long moment. I didn't know, she said finally. I really didn't. They always said you were doing okay, but they made it sound like, I don't know, like you were barely scraping by, because that's what they wanted to believe. And you never questioned it. You're right. I should have. I'm sorry. The apology caught me off guard. In 30 years, I could count on one hand the number of times Paige had apologized for anything. Thank you, I said carefully, but that doesn't change the rent situation. I know. I'll take the payment plan. I don't have another choice. I'll have Sophia send over the paperwork. You'll need to sign by Friday. Okay. A pause. Morgan? For what it's worth, I really am sorry. Not just about the rent. About all of it. The way they treat you, the way I let them. I knew it wasn't fair. I just didn't want to rock the boat. I appreciate you saying that, and I'd like to come see your office sometime. Your company. I want to understand what you actually do. That would be nice. After you sign the payment plan. A small laugh. Fair enough. We hung up. I sat in my office staring at the folder, trying to process what had just happened. I'd expected a fight. I'd expected denial, accusations, the usual Paige deflection. Instead, I'd gotten something that almost looked like accountability. It didn't fix anything. The years of being dismissed, the family dinners where I was treated like an afterthought, Those wounds didn't heal with one apology, but it was a start. Sophia knocked on my door. How did it go? She's taking the payment plan. Really? No pushback? Some. But she came around. I handed her the folder. Draw up the standard terms. 3 years to pay off the back rent, automatic withdrawals, penalty clause for missed payments. You want me to adjust the rates at all, given the family situation? No, standard terms. If I give her special treatment, she'll never learn to stand on her own. Got it. Sophia paused at the door. For what it's worth, I think you're handling this well. A lot of people would have just evicted her. A lot of people didn't grow up being compared to her. I know what it's like to be treated like you don't measure up. I'm not going to do that to her, even if she's done it to me. That's generous. Maybe. Or maybe I just want to prove I'm better than they think I am. Sophia smiled and left. I turned back to my computer, back to the acquisition proposals and the spreadsheets and the work that my family had never understood. Sunday dinner came and went without me. My mother texted pictures of the celebration. Paige cutting a cake shaped like a croissant. My parents beaming with pride. Everyone gathered around the golden child. I looked at the photos and felt the old familiar sting, but it was duller now, less sharp. I knew something they didn't. I knew the truth about Paige's successful bakery, and I knew that I'd handled it with more grace than they would have ever expected. That was worth something. Monday morning, Paige called again. The paperwork came. I signed it. The first payment goes out Friday. Good. I also told Derek about everything. The rent, the debt, the fact that you own the building. She laughed weakly. He was pretty shocked. He had no idea things were that bad. You were hiding it from your husband? I was hiding it from everyone, myself included probably. It's easier to pretend everything's fine than to admit you're failing. I understood that better than she knew. What did Derek say? He's being supportive. We're going to sit down and really look at the numbers this week. Figure out if the bakery is viable or if we need to make some changes. That's smart. Yeah. It's also terrifying. A pause. Morgan, can I ask you something? Go ahead. How did you do it? Build all of this? You started with nothing, same as me, but you turned it into $68 million. How? I made choices. Boring, practical choices. I lived in a one-bedroom apartment for 8 years, so I could save for my first property. I worked nights and weekends while I was building the portfolio. I said no to vacations and nice cars and all the stuff that feels good in the moment but doesn't build anything lasting. That sounds miserable. Sometimes it was, but I wanted security more than I wanted comfort. And now I have both. Paige was quiet. I wanted comfort, she said finally. I wanted to do something I loved, and I thought if I just worked hard enough, the money would follow. But it doesn't work like that, does it? Not usually. Passion doesn't pay the bills. Good decisions do. I wish someone had told me that before I signed a lease I couldn't afford. I tried to tell you. 3 years ago, when you were writing your business plan, you said I didn't understand entrepreneurship. I remember. Her voice was small. I was wrong. About a lot of things. We talked for another hour. About her bakery. About my properties. About the years of misunderstanding between us. It wasn't reconciliation. That would take longer. But it was communication. Real communication. Maybe for the first time in our lives. When we hung up, I felt something I hadn't expected. Hope. The family reckoning came a month later. Paige had been making her payments on time. She'd also made some changes at the bakery. Cut costs. Adjusted her menu. Focused on the products that actually sold. The numbers were still tight, but they were moving in the right direction. She also told our parents the truth. I wasn't there for that conversation, but she called me afterward. It didn't go well. What happened? I told them about the rent situation. About how close I came to losing everything. About how you could have evicted me and didn't. She laughed bitterly. Dad said you should have been more understanding. That family helps family. That you shouldn't have put me in such an uncomfortable position. Of course he did. I told him he was wrong. I told him you'd been more than fair. That I was the one who'd failed to meet my obligations. That you gave me a chance I didn't deserve. How did that go over? He didn't like it. Neither did Mom. They've spent so long seeing you as the disappointment that they can't adjust to the idea that you're actually the successful one. Paige, I'm not trying to compete with you. I never was. I know. That's what makes it worse. You weren't competing, you were just living your life. And they turned it into a competition anyway, with me as the winner even when I was losing. I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. I told them about your company, Paige continued. The real numbers. The 43 properties, the $68 million. I thought maybe if they understood the scale of what you'd built, let me guess, they didn't care. Dad said money isn't everything. Mom said she hoped you weren't becoming one of those greedy landlord types. She sighed. I don't know how to make them see you, Morgan. I really don't. You can't make them see anything. They've decided who I am, and no amount of evidence will change that. That's not fair. No, but it's reality. And I stopped expecting fairness from them a long time ago. We were quiet for a moment. I'm going to keep trying, Paige said, to change their minds. You deserve better than the way they've treated you. Thanks, but don't do it for me. Do it because it's right. Same thing, isn't it? Maybe it was. I'd spent so long being the black sheep that I'd forgotten what it felt like to have someone in my corner. Thank you, Paige, for seeing me. Finally. Thank you for not destroying my bakery when you had every reason to. I never wanted to destroy you. I just wanted to be treated like I mattered. You do matter. I'm sorry it took me 30 years to figure that out. The lease renewal was signed 2 weeks later. New terms, fair market rate, automatic payments. Paige's bakery had a home for another 3 years, and I had a tenant who actually paid on time. More importantly, I had a sister, a real one, not just someone I shared parents with. We started meeting for lunch once a month. She'd bring pastries from the bakery. I'd bring advice about cash flow and inventory management. Slowly, the years of distance started to close. Our parents never came around. They attended Paige's second anniversary celebration at the bakery, but when they found out I owned the building, they suddenly remembered a prior commitment. They still invited me to holiday dinners, but there was always a reason to change the subject when my work came up. I stopped expecting them to change. Some people are who they are, and no amount of success will make them see you differently. They'd decided I was a disappointment when I was 20, and they'd held on to that belief through 43 properties and $68 million. That was their loss, not mine. Paige's bakery actually became successful, really successful, in its 3rd year. She'd learned from her mistakes, tightened her operations, focused on what worked. When she finally turned a real profit, she called me first. We're in the black, legitimately in the black. Congratulations, that's huge. I couldn't have done it without you. The payment plan gave me room to breathe. The business advice helped me figure out what was wrong. And knowing you believed in me enough to give me a second chance, that kept me going when I wanted to quit. I didn't believe in you because you're my sister. I believed in you because you were willing to learn. Same thing, isn't it? Maybe. But the learning was the important part. She laughed. You're still the practical one. Someone has to be. I'm glad it's you. The building on Riverside is still mine. Paige's bakery is still there, now taking up the whole first floor instead of just Unit 4B. She bought out the neighboring lease and expanded, with my help, at fair market terms. No family discounts. Sometimes I walk past the building and see customers lined up at the counter, buying croissants and coffee and the cinnamon rolls that have become her signature item. I see my sister behind the counter, flour on her apron, smiling at someone's kid. She built something. She really did. It just took her longer than she expected, and she needed help along the way. We all need help along the way. The difference is whether you're willing to admit it. Dad still doesn't understand what I do. He still calls me the landlord, like it's a minor occupation. Still changes the subject when my company comes up. He celebrated Paige's expansion like she'd invented electricity and mentioned my purchase of a 12-property portfolio, like it was a mildly interesting hobby. I've stopped caring, not because I don't want his approval, part of me will always want that, but because I've learned that some approval isn't worth chasing. Some people will never see you clearly, no matter what you achieve. The people who matter, Paige, my team, the tenants who depend on me to maintain their buildings, they see me. They know what I've built. That's enough. My father said I just collect rent. He meant it as an insult. But rent pays for roofs over people's heads. Rent pays for Sophia's salary and her kids' college fund. Rent keeps small businesses alive when they're 3 months behind and need someone to give them a chance. I collect rent, and I'm damn good at it. Paige brought me a cake for my birthday last month. Not one of her fancy bakery creations. A homemade chocolate cake, slightly lopsided, decorated with Happy Birthday Morgan in wobbly icing. I wanted to make it myself, she said, like the ones Mom used to make when we were kids. I remembered those cakes. Before the divorce, before the remarriage, before everything got complicated. When we were just two sisters in a small kitchen, licking frosting off the spoons. Thank you, I said. It's perfect. I know things are different now. We're different, but I want you to know. I'm proud of you. I should have said it years ago, but I'm saying it now. You built something incredible, Morgan, and I'm proud to be your sister. I cried. Just a little. Just enough to let her know it mattered. I'm proud of you too, I said. You didn't give up. A lot of people would have, but you stuck with it, and you made it work. I had a good teacher. You had a sister who wanted to see you succeed. Same thing. Maybe it was. Maybe that's what family is supposed to be. People who want to see you succeed, even when it's hard, even when you've been terrible to them. We ate the cake together. Two sisters at my kitchen table, finally on the same side. It took 30 years and $14,000 in back rent to get here, but we made it. And that's worth more than any building I'll ever own.